also the best parents in the world. Not everyone thinks so, though. Somewhere out there, people are wanting to hurt him. It scares me, just like the dream I had the other night. I had a dream that my dad was talking about some political issue involving guns. Then someone pulled out a gun and shot him. I couldn't do anything about it. It scares me to think that I could lose my parents any second of the day, all because someone doesn't like how they run the country. I'm not ungrateful to be the president's daughter. It's just, sometimes I miss our home back in Chicago. I mean, the White House is great, with 6 floors, 58 rooms, 58 bathrooms, and 132 rooms. It's just, sometimes I want a normal life again. I can't go anywhere without men in black suits and glasses following me. It's almost as if I'm an alien and they're the men in black. Oh well, this is my life. I wonder how my dad feels. What's it like for him every day? What goes through his mind when he tells people what he wants for America?
Thank you, Sasha.
I had a dream. Many believe that I let Martin steal my dream. Before I met Martin, I was attending the New England Conservatory for Music. I had decided on a career in music. My dream for myself was not one of fame and fortune. I believed that music could bring people together and ease tensions. I remember during the movement, when something would happen to incite the crowd, we didn't reach for guns. We sang, and it brought us closer together. After I married Martin, of course, music took a backseat to raising a family and providing a stable home life for Martin. And I know those are important things, but it didn't stop me from wanting to make a more direct contribution to the movement. I started wondering how music could be used to raise money for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And I came up with the idea of freedom concerts. And I started working on a format that would combine my musical talent with poetry and narrative about the struggle. I tried to pick songs that conveyed the pain and the struggle of the movement, but also the hope. When I presented the idea to Martin, he was skeptical. He didn't think the concerts could raise that much money, but he encouraged my efforts. I hadn't sung in a long, long time, and my voice had taken on a different quality since those days of the conservatory. I practiced every single day to get my voice back into shape. Many of the male Southern Christian Leadership Conference staff were skeptical. They didn't believe that money could be raised. But when those proceeds started coming in, they had to admit that the concerts had been a success. The West Coast tour alone raised $20,000, and that wasn't a small sum for that time. After I arrived back from the West Coast concert, the march from Selma to Montgomery was just getting underway. I wanted to join those marchers so bad, but I had a previous engagement. But after that was over, I rushed to the outskirts of Montgomery, where Harry Belafonte was singing on a makeshift stage. My voice joined those of Tony Bennett, Nina Simone, Frankie Lane, and Peter, Paul, and Mary. It was so exciting to see so many different types of people come together for such an important cause. 3 days later, I was back on tour on the East Coast. That tour ended right here in Philadelphia at 16th and Christian at the First African Baptist Church. I'm told that the sum totals of money raised for all the concerts together was about $50,000. I had made my contribution, and I was able to use my love for music and my commitment to the cause to do it. Was my dream stolen? No, my dream wasn't stolen. It was used to promote a much bigger dream. Leah!
I've been promoting my first album, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number, and getting ready to perform at the legendary Apollo Theater in New York next week. I'm excited, but nervous. I'm always nervous when I perform. My album is going platinum, 3 hit singles, produced by my very, very close friend and mentor, R. Kelly. Some days after rehearsal sessions, we would go out together. He's a really cool guy. I know what they're saying, but no, we're not married. I ignored the talk. The other day, someone came to me about my age being 18. It was a marriage certificate. I don't even have a boyfriend. That's enough of that. I don't talk about my personal life. I mean, I have to keep some things for myself. I know I'm in the public eye, but I have to keep some things for myself. Anyway, why are people so stuck on age? That's why I don't tell my age. But I'll give you guys. My sweet birthday is coming in January 16th.
After I married Martin,
That's why the name of my project is my station, because it's not about age, it's about hard work. I work really hard on my falsetto and innovating music ideas for videos and songs, and creating my own unique look, like strong, long, straight hair, sunglasses, and showing my waist. But I have to watch Marley because I'm in love with waffles and syrup. Sex appeal is important, and I embrace it. My mom, she took photos of me when I was 10 years old, when I was in the Star Search TV. She said that my sex appeal had really shown out. I was hot, all right. Hot about not winning first place in the competition, but I didn't give up. And Jive Records signed me about 2 years later. My career is about family. My family keeps me level-headed. My brother, he is in all my music videos and he writes songs with me. He's my best friend. My mom and dad, they travel everywhere, so I perform. My dad is my manager, along with my uncle. And my uncle's been in the business 20 years. And he was married to someone like years back. But, I mean, it's like I love music.
Nina Simone,
I really love
Frankie
it.
Lane, and
However, I don't mistake music with education. I am a straight A student with a 4.0 GPA at Detroit's High School of Performing Arts.
of money raised for all the was about $50,000.
I mean, I would even go to
Was
college,
my dream started?
study engineering,
My dream
go to
was
Spelman. Mom loves
my
Spelman.
dream was used to promote a much bigger dream.
But music is my life. I will always be in the arts. And I want to become a complete entertainer for all of my fans. I would one day want to be an actress, be in movies. I mean, be there for my fans. Without my fans, I couldn't survive as an artist. I love you guys.
Now we have Lena Horn. I always remember what my grandmother said. My father's mother, don't ever let anybody see you cry. Hold your head up very straight. Look at people and answer them or question them distinctively. My grandmother told me that I should be a teacher. But my mother, Edna, she had this crazy idea about me being a star. But she didn't understand anything because her mother had raised her to be a little princess. My grandmother, she took me to all of her meetings from the time I was little. She was in the Urban League, the NAACP, and the Ethical Culture Society. However, my father, he was a gambler and a racketeer. He taught me a lot. And he gave me the street knowledge that I needed to survive. I asked my father to go to Hollywood after MGM had made that request for me to come. I think this was the first time a black man ever come into L.B. Meyer's office and said, I don't want my daughter in this mess, and I don't want to see her wearing any slave robe. I made it to Hollywood, but I was completely isolated. Me and the shoe shine boy, we were the only two blacks out there in the studio mostly every day. I was unique, and I was that kind of black that white people could accept. But I had the worst kind of acceptance because it was never for how great I was or what I contributed. It was because of the way I looked. MGM was so afraid that people would mistake me as a white woman. They had a makeup legend called Max Factor create a makeup line called the Dark Egyptian so that I would appear as a Negro on screen. You know, I had many challenges along the way. I was always battling the system to try to get to be with my people. I fought for housing. The mere fact of living had to be fought. I fought against racism throughout my career. And I fought against discrimination throughout my lifetime. You know, I was at the March on Washington, and I was helping Eleanor Roosevelt pass an anti-lynching law.
When I was 10, when I was competing in the TV stars.
If you want to go in show business, never lose sight of who you are or who you can become. What I have is that you're not taught to be second class because you're not born that way. And remember, it's not the load that breaks you down, it's the way you carry it.
All right.
I was the fourth of 8 children born to Earl and Louise Little on May 19, 1925 in Omaha, Nebraska. My mother was a homemaker, and my father was a preacher and strong supporter of Marcus Garvey, who spoke about human rights, racial injustice, and the need for all African Americans to go back to Africa. We moved to East Lansing, Michigan because of the racism our family faced from the KKK. In 1929, everyone watched our home burn down to the ground. In 1931, my father, Earl Little, was found dead, which sent my mother over the edge. In 1939, she went completely crazy and had to be institutionalized. I went to West Junior High School where I was the only black student, and I told the teacher I wanted to be a lawyer. She laughed at me, told me I need to be realistic. I dropped out of school at age 15 and began a life of crime. I moved with my sister in Baltimore. In 1946, was arrested for larceny and sentenced to 10 years in prison. In 1952, I converted to the Nation of Islam and started a newspaper while in prison. In 1960, Muhammad Speaks became a national Muslim newspaper. I went to Detroit to work on the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and became known for expressing my feelings for the white man. I believed in casting off the shackles by any means necessary. Membership grew from 400 to 40,000. In 1958, I married Betty Sanders, soon to become Betty Shabazz, and had 6 daughters. In 1964, I renounced the Nation of Islam and started the Muslim Mosque. I have always believed that real power comes from our conviction, which produces action. African American music is essential to articulate concepts of race, pride, and black magic, to eliminate the evils in our community.
Nanny Helen Burroughs.
Yes, and were you students at my school, the National Training School for Women and Girls, you would stand erect and enunciate. A race rises on its own wings or is held down by its own weight. May 2nd, 1879 was my birthday, and I've worked in every aspect of Negro life. I was one of the founders and president of the Women's Convention, auxiliary to the National Baptist Convention, USA. I established the Women's Day in Baptist churches, and I was the first woman to give the commencement address at the prestigious Tuskegee Institute. I was mentor to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., son of my dear friend Al Burroughs. But I believe I became most well known for my pamphlet, 12 Things the Negro Must Do for Himself. Let me share a few with you. Foremost, the Negro must learn to put first things first. First things are education, the development of character, a trade, and home ownership. The Negro must stop waiting for God and white people to do for him what he must do for himself. We must do what Jesus told that man to do in John 5. Take up your bed and walk. The Negro must keep himself, his children, and his home clean. He must make his surroundings comfortable and attractive. We must learn to run our neighborhoods up, not down. We must learn not to blame our color or white folks' attitudes for our failings. Did you know that my very first teaching opportunities were denied because of the color of my skin? Well, look at me now. I say what my contemporary Zora Neale Hurston said. I am colored, and I offer nothing in the way of extenuating service. I am the founder and principal of a school with national reputation for a rigorous academic curriculum. The Negro must improve his behavior in public places. Taken as a whole, you all are entirely too loud and too ill-mannered. Well, let me finish. The noblest thing the Negro can do is to live and labor in love. He must make his heart warm with thanks, his lips sweet with gratitude, and his mind and soul dedicated to purpose. Remember, despite its racial prejudice, America is brimful of opportunities. Now, you all go out and get them.
He is one of the most famous boxers of all time. His conversation with Islam and draft evasions convicted surrounded him with controversy and even exile from boxing for 3 years. Nicknamed the greatest, he became a symbol of black pride. I present to you Muhammad Ali.
I was born Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr. on January 17, 1942 in Louisville, Kentucky. My interest in boxing was sparked When my bike was stolen at the age of 12, I wanted to whoop that thief bad. A police officer, Joe Martin, who also trained young boxers, told me I needed to learn how to fight before I started challenging people. I started working with Martin to learn how to box. In 1954, I had my first amateur fight, which I won by a split decision. Turning professional, I took out British heavyweight champion Henry Cooper in 1963 and knocked out Sonny Liston to become the heavyweight champion of the world in 1964. I was calling myself, or referred to myself, as the greatest because I was too pretty. And I float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. In 1964, I went on a spiritual soul-searching mission and joined the Nation of Islam under Elijah Muhammad. I was calling myself Cassius X. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad changed my name to Muhammad Ali, worthy to be praised. The only announcer to recognize this name change was Howard Cosell. In 1966, they tried to draft me, but I was a conscientious objector due to my religious belief. In 1967, I was found guilty and stripped of my boxing title for 3 years. I returned to the ring in 1970 and had the fight of the century against Joe Frazier. I lost by decision, but I returned the following year to win. In 1981, I decided to retire with a record of 56-5. I always believed that I was an ordinary man who worked hard to develop the talent I was given and kept my faith.
Married at the age of 13, and I had my only daughter in 1885. 2 years later, however, my husband died, so I moved to St. Louis to be with my four brothers who had established themselves as farmers, working as a laundrywoman.
God gave me Parkinson's to show me that I'm just a man like everyone else.
In the 1890s, however, I began to suffer from snapback and causing issues of my hair. Embarrassed by it,
Muhammad Ali overcame a racial and economic obstacle to become one of the most celebrated saints of the 20th century, acclaimed control. At the age of 6, Anderson sang in the choir of the Union Baptist Church, where she became known as Baby Contralto. I present to you Mary Kim.
the first black woman to be consulted.
Of the 20th century and well known throughout the world. I was born in poverty, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to the daughter of a coal peddler. I began my singing career as a child, singing at church concerts. I went to South Philadelphia High School for Girls, and my address was 762 and 764 Market Street. The most memorable time of my life was when I gave a concert on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. There were 75,000 Americans of all races, creeds, and colors. Many were angry because I was denied the right to give a concert at the historic Lincoln Constitution Hall. Mrs. Eleanor Roosevelt arranged for me to sing at the Lincoln Memorial. And she was even a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution who had denied me the right to give a concert at the historical Constitution Hall.
My interest in boxing.
Now, when she heard of how I was insulted, she resigned from the organization.
That beef bang.
But guess what? In March 1942, I sang at the historical Constitutional Hall by invitation of
Before I
the
started.
Daughters of the American Revolution.
I started working with Martin.
God's been so good to me. In spite of all that I've been through, I never forgot where I came from.
Which I won.
Now, in Europe, I was well received. I had no
Turned
problem.
professional.
I gave my
Took out
first
British
concert
heavyweight
in
champion Henry
Berlin.
Cooper in 1960.
And in Salzburg, the immortal
And knocked out Sonny
Arturo
Liston in 1964
Toscanini
to
said a
become
voice
the
like
heavyweight
mine
champion of
was
the
only
world.
heard once in 100 years.
I referred to myself
Now,
as the
I
greatest.
don't want to boast and I don't want to brag, but I was the recipient.
And I float like a butterfly.
I'm going to
In
name this to you.
1964,
I received the
I went on
Philadelphia
a
Box
spiritual
Award,
soul searching mission
the
and joined
Singer
the Black Muslim
Medal
group known
of the
as GSMIC
NAACP,
under Elijah
15
Muhammad.
honorary doctorates of music. I sang
I
3
was
times
calling myself
at the White House,
Cassius X.
received decorations from
Honorable
Haiti,
Elijah
France,
Muhammad changed
Liberia,
my name
and the
to
Philippines.
Muhammad Ali.
Oh, I forgot to mention, there's even a
The only
recreation
announcer
center named
to
after me
recognize this
in South Philadelphia.
now,
Now, although I moved to Danbury with my husband in
they tried
Connecticut,
to draft me,
my family still
but I
lives
was
in
a
South Philadelphia.
conscientious objector due to
And I
my
heard-
religious belief.
If I was to visit South Philadelphia today,
1967,
I
I
wouldn't
was found
recognize it.
guilty and stripped of my boxing title for 3 years. I returned to the ring in 1970 and had the fight of the century against Joe Frazier. I lost by decision,
Mary
but
Nancy.
I returned in 1970
Sarah
to show
Reza on December 3rd, 1867, near Delta, Louisiana. She invented a line of African-American hair products in 1905 and became the first female self-made millionaire in the United States. I give you Madam J.
I am a woman who came from the cotton fields of the South. From there, I was promoted to the wash club. And from there, I was promoted to the cooking. From there, I promoted myself into the business of manufacturing hair goods. I built my own company on my own ground. I was orphaned at the age of 7, married at the age of 14, and I had my only daughter in 1885. Unfortunately, 2 years later, my husband died. So I moved to St. Louis to be with my 4 brothers who had established themselves as barbers. I started to work as a laundrywoman and I was able to save up enough money to educate my daughter. And I became involved in the activities of the National Association of Colored Women. In the 1890s, however, I began to suffer from a scalp movement that caused me to lose some of my hair. Embarrassed by this, I experimented with some home remedies and some products by an entrepreneur named Annie Milan. In 1905, I started to work for Milan, and I moved to Denver, where I met and married my husband, Charles Joseph Walker. I changed my name to Madam C.J. Walker, and I founded my own company selling my products called Madam Walker's Wonderful Hair Grower, a scalp conditioner with 75,000. You can smell it if you like. I started to go from down south all the way to the southeast, going door to door doing demonstrations, working on marketing strategies. In 1908, I opened up a college in Pittsburgh training hair culturists. I offered thousands of young black women a meaningful employment, other than the sharecroppers working as laundrywomen or in the cook kitchen. I am the first black woman to be a self-made millionaire.
I grew up to become a televised women novelist. She has written both fiction and essays about race and gender. She is one of the most admire African-American writers today? Alice Walker.
I was the 8th and last of Georgia sharecroppers. I think I've always been a poet since I've been about 7 or 8. I took to writing poetry to find a room of my own, solitude, a place where I could express my thoughts and ideas. I feel fundamentally I am a poet that turned to writing novels. When I was 7 or 8, my brother, one of my brothers, accidentally shot me in one eye and blinded me. Still, I graduated valedictorian of my high school class and attended college on scholarship. I've had to work hard to stay connected with my family. They never received the education that I did. In the 60s, I married a Jewish civil rights lawyer and moved to Mississippi. We were the first legally married interracial couple in the entire state. We worked hard together to desegregate schools. I miscarried when I heard that Martin Luther King was assassinated. However, 17 months later, our daughter Rebecca was born. In the 70s, I embraced the Black Power movement, feminism, and Marxism. I left my home, my marriage, and my daughter and moved to San Francisco with another man.